Before America was even founded, the second the land was discovered, vulnerable populations seeped its way into society. During colonial times, the most vulnerable populations would be women, Native Americans, and African American slaves. The truly sad part is that these populations are still very vulnerable today, even after centuries. Women during this time had many restrictions, even the women in royalty. The husband was seen as the most superior, and when a woman decided to get married, her father would give the husband ownership over her. Women were seen as weaker, physically, mentally, morally, and intellectually. Women had few job opportunities, no protection, they couldn't get a divorce easily, they weren't allowed in politics, they had no rights over their children, and if they got to work outside of the house, they were paid poorly. Many Europeans were not exposed to different races or cultures previously, which caused them to be closed-minded. Columbus would be a great example of this. He dehumanized the natives, which forced them to become the European slaves. The Europeans quickly created stereotypes for the natives based on skin color, their cultural differences, and lifestyles. The natives were considered savages, cavemen, crude, and pagan. Native culture was endangered very quickly as soon as more Europeans came. Many natives died from the diseases the settlers brought over. Many believe that slavery would not have existed in such large amounts if Columbus never discovered the New World. African American slaves were seen as self-replenishing source of labor, and for the most part were resistant to European diseases. The New World needed roads built, land cleared, and crops raised in different environments, especially tobacco. Native Americans would escape into the wilderness. Europeans didn't want the nasty back-breaking work, so African Americans were the new slaves for them. African Americans were dehumanized, treated poorly, fed poorly, lived in terrible living conditions, and were forced to do very hard physical work. Many white settlers were unable to own land for many reasons, such as disabilities, drinking too much, unable to grow crops successfully, mental diseases, or they lost all their money. These poor white settlers were considered human waste, and they were blamed for being poor. There were no resources to help take care of these people, and they were considered disposable. The textbook explains that the colonists created a society that lived off of agriculture they were able to produce. The textbook says the Europeans should not be blamed if their politics or ideas, when inherited by subsequent generations, proved inadequate to the social problems of an urbanized and industrialized nation.